So while we wait for our guest, let's talk a little bit about the early season preview of Alabama Florida State for a moment.
Mhm.
So this is gonna be a good one right there.
I
And it's
hope
a
it's
hog
not
and
a good
hog.
one. I hope it's a blowout.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun one to watch. I mean, at least on our end. But Florida State is looking to go up. I mean,
They
it's
have nowhere to go but up. I mean,
agree. I mean, you kind of need to, it's like that's why you got Thomas Castellanos for Boston College. And as we always say, if you can't beat them, join them. Well, in this case, if you can't beat them, get them to come to your school. I mean, it's a pretty good mindset. It is a pretty good mindset. And I mean, you're going to have Malzahn as your offensive coordinator. I mean, funny thing was, it's like, okay, this isn't working out for me at Central Florida. And I'm going to be the OC. Like, I think he saw the writing on the wall, read the room that he was going to be getting that vote of confidence. Like, nope, I've seen this movie before. I'm out. I'd say that's a smart choice right there. I mean, you're going to be the offense coordinator in Tallahassee. So that'll be a good one right there. And yeah, it'll be interesting. And we're gonna have our quarterback situation figured out by the time we play Florida State.
most likely Ty Simpson, but
Oh yeah. So here we go. And ladies and gentlemen, he is the co-host of Florida State Live Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, a writer for Florida State Wire and writer for Blogging with the Boys at SB Nation. And he's a huge Atlanta Braves fan, the one and only himself, Matthew Lennox. How you doing tonight, good buddy?
How y'all doing tonight? I'm great.
Oh
doing
man, we're
awesome.
doing fantastic. We're talking a little bit about Alabama, Florida State. That's
hmm
There we go. So
Yeah,
how you
well,
feeling?
sorry. Before we get started, let me just say, Jackson, I want to give a special shout out to you because without you, I wouldn't be with the voice of college football. So it wasn't for you reaching out and giving me this opportunity, I wouldn't be here. So I wanted to make sure you got your kudos and your thank you, sir. So I really appreciate you.
Well, I mean, you know your stuff about Florida State athletics, and you're like juggling Florida State, North Carolina, the Cowboys and the Atlanta Braves. I'm like, I'm like amazed. Like you're like a freaking magician. I mean, the beard shows it. It's like you're like a freaking wizard. Like Florida State Wire, blogging with the boys. Like when I got the word, we need a Florida State person from TJ and Chris. I was like, this is one of the guys I'm going to reach out to. He looks like a host, and he looks like he knows what he's talking about.
I
And
really
I've got a
appreciate
good feeling about it, especially reading those articles all over the
it.
place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just, uh, quick story how I became a Florida State fan. The first time I watched them play, they actually lost. It was the game of the century in '93 against Notre Dame.
Oh,
Um, yeah, that was the first time I ever watched Florida State play, and I was just captivated by Charlie Ward and the Ward Dunn back flap and the Ward chant and the gold helmets, and I was just amazed by it. And then thankfully I got to watch one of the greatest games in the history of college football. So that was like my introduction to the sport. And even though they lost, I was just I was all the way in at 9 years old, and 32 years later I'm still here. And now to be writing about them and now co-hosting the show about them is it's a dream come true. So
well, we are glad that you're a part of the Voice of College Football Network, and I can tell you,
appreciate it.
it's like I'm amazed. Like, it's like I'm always going to be amazed by like writing articles, like hosting shows. Like it's like, man, you're like juggling it all. Like it's amazing.
Yeah.
Note to
Hey,
self: we'll have to make sure we discuss Atlanta Braves in the future for sure.
okay. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I said, I've been a Braves fan since actually when they started their run because my mom moved there in December '90. So that was right before their first World Series appearance, in the '90s. So yeah, I've been a big Braves fan. I was, the 11-year-old, jumping for joy when we got the last out in '95 when we won, and then I literally told my boss at my old job when we won in '21. I said, "Hey, we're gonna clinch tonight, so I'm gonna be a couple hours late." So just hold my stuff for me. He said, "Yeah, I'll make sure I do it. I know this is a big night for you. Don't worry about it. You're good. Come in when you can." So yeah, I'm big on Land Braves too. So I'll definitely look forward to that in the future.
Oh man. So when looking at Florida State, Alabama, like going into week 1, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time on ABC, what is going through? What is your early thoughts on this matchup?
Honestly, of course, I mean, anytime you play Alabama, I mean that's just you're playing one of the teams that set the standard, for the entire sport. With the Georgias and Ohio States of the world and stuff like that. So it's a very big matchup, and to have it at home to open it, this is a great first test for a team that's trying to get back to what they were, the previous 2 years before last year. Winning 23 games and being one of the better teams in the nation. But when you come from 2-12, I mean, excuse me, 2-10. You can only go up from there. I think playing a team like Alabama that has, put so many guys in the NFL on both sides of the ball. They're always coached well. They're always prepared. They have great athletes. So if you're going to get tested, Alabama's one of the best teams to go against. So I feel like, it's going to be a struggle for them, of course, because they're not quite as talented as Alabama. We had a good close to our 2025 class. We ended up losing a lot of guys during the season. A lot of guys flipped, when we started losing, but we had a really, really good close. As you guys know, we've had a really good 2 weeks for the 26 class. So, but yeah, this is going to be a big test. I think this game is going to go one or two ways. I think either Alabama is going to win comfortably, or I think it'll be one of those situations where it's the first game, it's on the road, anything can happen. And I think it's going to be down to the last possession, and somebody's going to either walk off with a field goal or get a last second defensive stand. So either Alabama or Florida State will win close, or Alabama will win big. If Florida State pulls off an upset, I don't think it'll be comfortably. I think they'll have to scratch and claw to beat Alabama.
For sure. I mean, I'm curious to see what'll happen because, like, it's only going to be the 5th matchup in the series history. Because, like, as far as I recall, like the first two were 65, and I'm looking at the 67 season. That was a disappointing season for Crimson Tide Nation. Like, it was a tie against Florida State to start things off, and
Right.
oh man, but 07, I mean, I couldn't believe it, but that was like the first win for Florida State against Alabama, I believe.
Yeah, I think you might be right about that. Yeah.
So there we go. Well, it's just like rocking and rolling.
I do agree with you, Matthew, that about the assessment of the game. That I agree. It's either going to be a blowout for us or a close win either way. Because
Right.
I mean, if it's like fourth quarter and it's a one-score game, then I mean, legitimately, because it's week 1, you don't know what's going to happen because. Like Florida State, like they're confident now, like they believe that they can come off with one of the biggest, at that time of the season will be the biggest upset already of the year. And then Alabama's nervous, like, oh man, we cannot blow this game. It's not like week 10, week 11, where both teams are kind of where they're at. It's like Florida State could like knock off Alabama in week 1 and still go like 7-5, still not even
exactly.
year. It could just be like it was week 1 and that's what helped them pull it off. And then Bama, like that game either ruins their season, they just like fall apart, or they use the Florida State loss to springboard their season. So that's why week 1, you never really can say for sure. Like I would never bet week 1 games. Like I'm not a betting guy, but if you bet college football, do not bet week 1. You do not know what's going to happen. These teams are not ready for their prime time play. Like they're giving it an A+ effort out there. It's going to be sloppy all over the place. I do think if Alabama starts out and goes up like 17-0, then the game's already it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, and the one thing about this game that I'm concerned about, the Florida State fan, is our defensive line going against Alabama's offensive line. Like that's the part where I think of course, Bama's going to have some drives where they establish some shells and they're going to play big ball and they're going to show you why they're Alabama because They always do, no matter who they play against, win or lose. So there's going to be some struggles, of course, but running this 3-3-5, I'm interested to see who's going to play where. We're going to have to be really strong in the middle against Bama because I mean, if we can't get any pressure up the middle, I just feel like we can't let the quarterback sit back there and just have time because I think we'll get picked apart. This is a new defense, even though the secondary I think right now is probably the strongest part of our defense. It is week one, it is a new scheme, so and, I mean, Bama's loaded, so I just feel like if they don't establish some kind of presence in the trenches, I mean, even if it's kind of nip and tuck back and forth, you can't get blown off completely off the ball in the trenches, especially on the defensive line, because like if Bama establishes themselves on offense, then the defense is going to pin their ears back, and it's going to be a long day for us. So yeah, we have to start fast. I'm hoping that if we win the kickoff, I want us to get the ball first. Like get the ball, try to go down and get an early score, get some momentum, and then put them on offense. I mean, even if it's just 3-0, like get the crowd involved because no matter what our record is, it's still hard to win at Doak. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it wrong. We're not what we used to be quite yet, but it's still tough to win there. So especially if we get rolling and that crowd gets going, and that chomp is going, the band's playing, like it can, pressure can bust some pipes. So, but yeah, like I said, it'll be more than likely either Bama will show why they're Bama and show why they're probably going to be, competing for the playoff and the championship, or I think it's going to be, week one. It's just everything's news, first game, and somehow it's the fourth quarter and it's 21-17 Bama. But it's 3rd and 10 and it's starting the fourth quarter and the crowd's rocking and things can go either way then. So I'm hoping it's like that because I just want us to have a chance in the fourth quarter. Because I feel like if we keep it close, even if we lose and we come out feeling good about ourselves, I think we can be 3-1 by the time we play Miami. And that'll put us in a position to like really have a good year. So yeah, and plus I think that'll help with recruiting also. If they see that, hey, like these guys are hanging with Bama after 2 and 10 years, the first game of the season, like, some recruits that might be on the fringe that are going to, commit in December and later on in the year, they might start, you know what, like I think they got something. So these games are bigger than people think. It's not just the wins and losses for the year. This goes with recruiting and all that stuff. So I just want us to have a really good showing no matter what, because I think that will make everybody feel good about the year, and it'll make the players feel good. This new staff will feel good. So it's a big one for us.
I have another question for you, Matthew, if you don't mind. How important is this game for Mike Norvell? Because I know obviously he's on the hot seat, right? Like he's everybody's saying like, oh, if he doesn't have a good year, he's fired, all that kind of stuff. Obviously,
Right.
like if they lose this game and then somehow win out the rest of the way, go 11-1, he's fine. So you can't say like this game is like the be all and end all for his tenure.
Right.
But like
Right.
how perception wise in the fan base, how important is this game for Mike Norvell to at least keep it close or maybe somehow pull off a big upset, like a blowout early? What would that do for the fan base?
Well, I can tell you right now, knowing the Florida State fan base, if we get blown out week one, they're going to be calling for his head. Week one. They're going to want him gone. People are going to overreact, and it's going to be bad. So as far as how important it is, I think it's important from the standpoint, like I said, just have your team come out and compete. Like that's what's going to make the fan base feel good. Even if you lose, let's say it's 31-28, a close 21-17 game, like I said, or if it's close in any way and it's competitive, the fan base will be fine. I think even the ones that kind of want him gone or whatever, they'll start to go, you know what, maybe I got to give this guy a chance. Because I feel like last year was an anomaly. I don't think that's going to be the norm here at Florida State. We were, just sometimes years like that happen. But I think that game, to me, like I said, it's just big for them to compete well. Because if they compete, that's going to go throughout the entire program, not just the players, but the coaches. They're going to start feeling good. So I just think it's important from the standpoint, not even necessary to win, because if we lose, like I said, and it's close and it's competitive, I think everybody would feel good, especially the fan base. Hopefully. Well, if they come out and they lay an egg, yeah, oh, trust me, Twitter would be a very, very dark place for Florida State fans for sure.
Oh man, like people will be throwing the baby out with the bathwater all over the
Oh yeah,
place.
for
Week
sure.
one.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like it's week 1, not week 11. Good grief!
exactly, exactly.
It's like it's not like Florida State's going 4-8 or 2-10. Gee, I mean, you've lost to Bama. I mean, they're not
That
losing.
2-10 season last year still shocks me. Like I was not expecting that. Like after the undefeated season and the bowl game or whatever, that doesn't even count to me. Like that it
Right.
does. I mean that team was fantastic with
Yeah.
Travis. They were so good. I know the ACC's not strong, but they were a darn good team. And it sucks they'd miss the playoffs like that. It was tough, right? And
Yeah.
then you have last year, like I knew they were going to be worse. I think I predicted 8-4. That was my prediction. I said they're going to take a step back with DJU. They're not going to be as good. But I'm like 8-4. Like it's the ACC. It's not strong. They'll be fine. They might finish like 25th.
Yeah.
And then
I had him at 9 wins. Yeah, I had him like 9-3. You take a step back.
I would have never expected them to
heads
do
up.
that.
I did have a swearing venting session at Florida State celebrating the win over Cal on After Dark, which I did hurl a couple F-bombs on After Dark, which I believe was let's see, September 22nd of 2024 on a Sunday night.
It's crazy.
So my apologies on Florida State for that. Nothing personal. I go like that on any team in general, so no worries there. I'll even go that hard on my own team.
Yeah, and trust me, I'll admit when I was watching the selection show for the playoff that year, I remember telling people, I said, look, when these rankings come out, I said, man, first of all, we really needed Georgia to beat y'all. That was going to benefit us. Georgia would have been undefeated. I think it would have been Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and us. That's what I think the 4 would have been. But so when you guys won, I mean, I got really nervous. I said, man, they got one loss to the SEC champion. They just beat Georgia. I said, that's going to carry a lot of weight.
And everyone thought Georgia was going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I had Georgia winning close, but I said, but Bama is the team that gives them fits. Like they know how to beat Georgia. Like they're just the one team that can. So, when I was watching that show, the selection show, man, I said if Florida State's not number 3, they're not getting it. Like once it was Michigan, Washington, and Texas was number 3, I said they're gonna put Bama. And when I saw it, I mean, my heart just dropped because I just wanted them to have the chance to play. I mean, I know without Travis, more than likely Michigan probably. I mean, I don't even think they would have beat us big because remember, our defense was lights out that year. Our defense was a championship level defense, and we had just shut down a top 20 offense to under 200 yards and 6 points. So we could play defense. We just probably weren't going to be able to score that much. And then the game probably in the second half probably would have got away. I think it probably would have been a situation where Michigan would have just by the 3rd quarter, it's like, okay, well, they fought all they could. They just can't do anything without a quarterback. But to me, I just felt like Jordan Travis was our best player. And we won every game with our best player. And then we won every game without him.
Yeah.
So to me, that makes you not only one of 4 deserving teams, it unequivocally makes you one of 4 best. Because they proven it doesn't matter if it's their first. And you remember in our last game in the AC Championship, that was our 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah, that really hurt Florida State.
That really hurt.
I feel like, and I know I might be wrong, but I feel like if the 2nd string, Rodemaker, if he hadn't got hurt, I think
they might have had a chance. They might have still gotten kept out. It would have made it look better with a backup. But a 3rd stringer, it was.
But Brock Glenn, I mean, he was not doing anything. I mean, he was not. And I remember watching that Louisville game. I remember it was like beginning of the game. They were like, "Oh, Florida State, win and you're in, win and you're in." I remember the broadcast. They were saying this. I think it was Jesse Palmer was on there. He was like, "Oh, Florida State, if they win, they're good." Then Brock Glenn's in their second half, and like the offense is just dead. And I remember them saying, "I don't know, Florida State might need to blow out Louisville to get in." And I'm like, "They're not getting in." I knew immediately right then and there. I'm like, "They're not getting in because if they're saying it, they're telling them." They're telling them Florida State's cooked because they're not doing it.
Yeah, and like while I was watching the broadcast, I'm celebrating, but that other ear is like, oh my god, I hate what they're saying. Because I'm keeping it in the back of my head because I know how this works. You know what I'm saying? So immediately after I celebrated the win, when the game went off, that's when I was kind of like the little SpongeBob gift where he's sitting there and he's looking with the thing like I started. I'm like, oh boy, like we didn't do enough on offense. So that was the only thing. Defensively, we proved that championship defense for sure, but.
And I made a video on my channel too. I did a video like 3 a.m. that night, like before the selection show. I was furious. I was scrolling Twitter. People were like Florida State, they're gonna get left out. They're not gonna get in. And I made a video saying Florida State should be in. They should be in. I don't care that their quarterbacks are. I don't care that their backups are. What they did all season long, they deserve to get in. And people were telling me no because they're gonna get blown out. And it's like, well, why did Cincinnati make the playoffs then? That was, you got to realize this is a 4-team playoff. We're looking at it from this perspective back then. I'm like, why did Cincinnati get in? They got blown out. Right. Everybody knew they were going to get blown out. So it's like Florida State should have got in, but they didn't let them in. And I was upset. I defended Florida State hard that year.
Appreciate you on that.
And it was on December 3rd, 2023 from Only Talk Sports, CFP snubs Florida State.
I was furious. Like I had the thumbnail. I was raging at like 3 a.m. Released that thing, and people are like, "Jeffrey, you're delusional." I'm like, "No, I'm not. They should have got in. Florida State should have got in."
And you know what? To me, like even though Texas had the win, head to head.
I actually thought Texas was going to get in over Bama. Honestly,
and see me, I actually had a scenario where it was Bama and Florida State getting in, Texas getting left out. Just because
why they put Texas ahead of Bama just because of the head-to-head. Because what I argued too, and I said in that video as well, back on that day, I said the reason my argument was because Alabama beat Georgia, which was the better win. All right, I know people are like, well, Texas beat Bama head-to-head. It was in week 2 of the season. Jalen Milroe was not that good yet. Right? And it's like Alabama improved as the year went along, knocked off Georgia in the SEC title game. Texas lost to Oklahoma, who wasn't even in the picture. Texas had the worst loss out of any team that made the playoffs.
Any team,
So I said this about 100 times. I said it on the Mark. I called into Mark's live stream that night. I made that video. People were going crazy at me. I called in the next day, and people were like, Jeffrey, lay it to rest. Texas should get in over Bama. Bama should have been 4th. Florida State should have been out. And I'm like, no, you can't just base it off head-to-head. Bama had the better win. Texas had the worst loss. Florida State was undefeated. That's how it should have went. It should have been Florida State, should have been Bama. But people said I was crazy. So
and then because I think it was Dan Orlowski was talking about how because I think he was talking to I think it was Booger McFarland. Booger really stuck up for Florida State, and he was talking about how like their strength of schedule, was like 55th. I think somebody said, but Michigan was like 51st. So it's like you can't use that argument. Yeah, they have the rules in there about if you lose a key player, it could hurt you. But I'm like, we look at how not only did we lost our best player and we still didn't lose. And look at the games we played. We played in the swamp. Now, granted, Florida wasn't Florida that we know, but it's still hard. Just like it's hard to win in dope, it's hard to win in the swamp, especially at night when we're there, when Florida State's there. Like that's not a guarantee. Like Florida always plays us tough for the most part. So to win that and then to go win a conference title and to shut down, like I said, an offense that was that good and make them look very pedestrian. I mean, really by the first quarter, I said we're going to win, even though we're not going to score that much because they're not going to be able to move the ball. Like I saw that in the first quarter. I said, oh no, they're not going to be able to score at all. Like I said, if we scored 13, if we scored 10 or 13, we're good. I wanted us to score more because, like you said, we needed to score more points to blow them out. But I knew that we didn't need that much to beat Louisville because I saw like Brandon Fisk and Jared First were just wrecking that game all day. So I'm like, yeah, they're not going to be able to score. But yeah, that was just man, it made me so mad because I first of all when Jordan Travis got hurt, I was in my apartment. That's one of the worst feelings I've ever had as a sports fan. Period. Like when I saw it, like I'm watching the play and then I looked and I said, is he still down? And then I saw his leg, and my head just dropped. I said, oh my God, he's done. I said, there's no way he's going to play, anymore this year. Even if there was some chance he was going to come back at some point. It won't be this season. So and of course, you start thinking about the playoff because you know where you're at, and you're undefeated. You got a chance to make it. It's like, man, like I actually thought we were going to struggle to win the next week. I was like, man, we're going to Florida with a backup that we might end up losing, and there might be nothing to talk about. But then when we won, I was like, I felt like we were going to win the championship, but I'm like, man, I know, like I said, how it works in the back of my head. I'm like, no, Jordan Travis, they're really going to use that big time. But I just feel like for a team to lose their best player and to not lose the way they did. I mean, now if he had got hurt in the ACC championship game, then I would probably understand it more. Because it's like, oh man, like we haven't seen them with any of the backup or a third stringer. Like we definitely can't put them in now. But you watch them play 2 games, and then after we played Florida, we were still in the top 4.
Mm-hmm.
So you going into championship week, you still thought we were good enough to be one of those teams after we played with a backup, and then we won with a even worse quarterback. So to me, I thought that should have been enough for, hey man, I know they don't have Jordan Travis, but they're one of the 4 most deserving and one of the 4 best. They have to be in.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Bama beating Georgia, that really hurt. And Brock Glenn, like the fact again, he didn't move the ball at all. Like Rodemaker was moving the ball. Like that's the only reason they beat Florida, because he was actually moving the ball, like somewhat, and their defense was doing great. But against Louisville, could not move the ball. It sucks because, like I said, definitely wanted to see Florida State make the playoffs that year, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I will say Travis's injury with his leg, it reminded me of Mackenzie Milton's injury, the UCF quarterback a few years ago.
UCF, yeah.
Florida State for brief.
Yep.
When he hurt his leg, it was all bent and all that. And and when Travis did it, it was like it reminded me of the same thing. And it's just it's such a sinking feeling because I liked both QBs. And just seeing them get hurt like that, I mean, you never want to see that. It is terrible.
Yeah. And like me, I remember when Marcus Lattimore hurt his knee at South Carolina.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, that was so gruesome. Like,
everybody thinks of him as that guy that was getting hurt a lot constantly, but I always think of him as the phenom that dominated the running core in 2010 at South Carolina and was part of that leadership that got South Carolina to their first division title in school history.
Yeah. It's just, man, and it's crazy because I've been dreaming of somehow a Florida State Bama national championship since 2013 because I hated that Auburn actually beat y'all in 2013 because I felt like. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Auburn was definitely formidable, and they earned it. You can't take that away from them. But like to me, that year was set up for Bama and Florida State to meet the championship. Like that was.
We were so heartbroken with the kick.
I
was a kid, man. I was like, no.
I can't even imagine how that felt.
Games I ever saw in my life.
I can't even imagine how that felt, man. I can't even imagine.
I mean, it's been 12 years since that happened, and I still can't even.
You still think about it, yeah. And see me, I've been a Florida State fan since '93, so I've actually watched them lose 3 national championship games. And when I was 12, I watched them lose the national championship to Florida. That was one of the worst nights of my life. They won their first national championship against us.
Oof.
Like that was gut wrenching. And then of course, in '98. I mean, no disrespect to Tennessee, but oh man, I feel like we should have won that one. I feel like that was one that we let get away too. And then Oklahoma. I mean, the way our offense disappeared. I mean, Oklahoma only scored 13 points, 13-2. I mean, that was a miserable night right there. Like we just couldn't do nothing offensively. So, yeah, man. Yeah, I've been dreaming of a scenario where Bama and Florida State could somehow, be really, really good at the same time and, meet for a championship. That would be a ratings blockbuster if you get those 2 schools.
Yeah, they've definitely made it harder with a 12-team playoff. I mean, like you got to go so far just to get to a championship. Yeah. Like before, you just had to win 12 games. If you win them all, or maybe still with one loss, if other things break your way. Now you've got to win 15 games. To get to a championship. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully one day they can meet and one of the semifinals or quarterfinals.
Still be cool, absolutely.
Oh yeah, a Bama Florida State game in the playoff. Oh yeah, that's blockbuster right there. So I mean, I actually thought that since since Lee Corso was doing his last headgear thing, I actually thought that maybe Bama and Florida State would get the night game.
Oh
Since
yeah,
he
because
since he went to Florida State and
and he was
he
roommates with Burt Reynolds before Burt
yeah
Reynolds
roommate with Burt
got
Reynolds.
that
Yeah.
his big break on Gunsmoke as Quinn Asper.
Yeah, I actually wanted the last headgear game to be in Tallahassee for I want Florida State and Bama to be the the site where he did that. I was actually surprised that they didn't do that, but I kind of understood with the other games. That one, I think it was Texas Ohio State.
Yeah, I saw the statement where Corso's family was pretty sad about it, but I was just kind of like, I felt like they were either going to go to Alabama, Florida State, or Ohio State, Texas. I mean, they started it with Brutus the Buckeye. I feel like they're going to finish it with Brutus.
I was hoping they'd do an IU game for him. Like, I know Indiana's not playing anybody week 1, but since he was the Indiana coach for a long time, go to an Indiana game. But Indiana doesn't have a mascot that has, anything that he could put on. So
I honestly thought when game day went to Indiana, Washington, it was like a hint that Corso was retiring.
Yeah, I was glad that they did that, though, for him. I mean, the thing is, Indiana had the Bison back in the 60s, which they're bringing back. I don't know if you saw that, Jackson. They are bringing it back. They're bringing the Bison back. But, yeah, he never got to put a mascot head on for Indiana. But I don't blame him why they're doing Ohio State, Texas. I mean, it's the biggest game.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And circling back to the first one he did.
Yeah.
So,
and then you got the defending national champion, and you got Texas, who, they've put themselves as one of the big powerhouses in college football now. So it makes sense to just, as the Florida State fan, I was holding out a little bit of hope because, it's Florida State and it's Alabama. Like, that those are two pretty big logos too. So maybe they'll do it there. But
if this game was last year, then it maybe would have.
Yeah, maybe last year. Yeah, for sure.
Been, still hyped up. But this year, it's,
agreed. Yeah. Well, we'll say though, Florida State Seminoles Live is starting up in 23 minutes, I believe. Wow. It's getting rocking and rolling. Matthew, what have you got going on in the world of Florida State Live, Florida State Wire, and Blogging with the Boys? What upcoming articles are we going to see?
Well, I'm probably going to do, as far as Cowboys, we're in such a dead period. Training camp is not till the end of July, so I'm probably going to do one on Jake Ferguson about how George Pickens being added to the offense and will help him. Probably one on Sam Williams about his big year for him. Just trying to put some, because it's so hard now because like whenever it's regular time, it's always something going on with the Cowboys. Like the headlines never stop. So there's never any time where you don't have anything to write. But right now, you gotta scramble for stuff. You don't want to do too much of the ranking articles and all that. Those are fun to do too, but I like doing my own stuff. So probably Sam Williams, Jeff Ferguson, of course, with Florida State. Some more, the recruiting stuff. I'm gonna probably talk about our receivers this year. I think it's going to be Javon Boggs and Deuce Robinson and Squirrel White. Probably going to be the three guys that start. You got three different guys. You got a big, tall guy, you got a speedy guy, and you got more like a technician. So I think we got a dynamic group this year, and it's going to surprise a lot of people. So probably do that. Some more recruiting stuff. I know we got some guys that are going to be committing soon that we're in the running for. So so hopefully we get a couple commits this week too and stay hot. So that's probably what I got going on right now. And then Florida State Live. Me and Sam, we're building our little thing week by week. We keep seeing the views go up and the traffic go up and guys asking questions. So it feels like we're doing something right.
Oh man, I love it how both of you guys have the Atlanta Braves hat on every show. Like I love it. It's like, oh man.
I'm like, because it's like it's kind of in the heart of baseball season. So this is normally around the time after once All-Star break comes, we normally get kind of hot. So I'm hoping we can get back in this thing a little bit.
It's honestly amazing to me how much of this eastern part of the country are Braves fans. I live in North Carolina, and everyone here is a Braves fan. It's like we don't have a baseball team right in North Carolina. So North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, northern part of Florida, it's all Braves. Even a lot of Alabama, like Braves fans, they cover such a big range. I think North Carolina will get a baseball team eventually, but I don't think they want to do it to hurt the Braves fandom. You know?
Yeah, because I was born and raised in Camden, South Carolina, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from Charlotte. So I mean, Channel 17 was TBS. 7:30. Atlanta Braves baseball. Yes, sir.
There you go.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's what I grew up on. Of course, watching old WGN with the Cubs and the White Sox, and listening to Harry Carey during the 7th inning stretch and all that. Oh yeah.
I'm so jealous. Yeah. I only get to watch them on YouTube reruns.
Well, I mean, I never got to saw them live, but I just remember watching games live and watching them do it. And it was always, I wasn't a Cubs fan, but whenever they would play, I would always turn to their games during the 7th inning because I wanted to, hear Harry Carey do his thing. So that's also one of my bucket list things too, is to go to Wrigley Field once, because that's like one of the ballparks in baseball. So.
Oh man, it would be cool to meet Chip Carey. That'd be pretty cool. Like, it's like I mean, I know he's the Cardinals broadcaster, but in my heart, he's always going to be the Atlanta Braves broadcaster.
Yeah, I mean, me, I was really a spoiled sports fan when you think about my fandom, because I became a Braves fan in '91. They started going on this run. My first Cowboys game, well, I started watching the Cowboys in '92 when I was 8 years old, but the first game that I watched uninterrupted, how games are on, but you're kind of like running around when you're a kid and you're playing around, running out of the house. Mm-hmm. But I was getting ready to play football that fall for the first time. And, my dad, God rest his soul, he was like, hey, well, if you're going to play football, you need to watch it and see what this is about. And I remember seeing a commercial for the Super Bowl, like Dallas versus Buffalo. So I go in the living room, I'm sitting Indian style, and I'm watching Charles Haley and Emmett and Michael Irvin and all these guys. So I watched Super Bowl 27. I became a diehard Cowboys fan. Like I told y'all, game of the century, Florida State. They ended up winning the championship that year. North Carolina, I became a fan of them in the early 90s. They won a championship in '93. So actually in '93, North Carolina, Florida State, and the Cowboys all won. So I was very spoiled. And then once the mid '90s hit with the Cowboys, I realized that sports is in the fairy tales, not the movies. Sometimes your teams are not good. Sometimes they're really, really bad, and they're really bad for a long time. Sometimes, so life came at me very young in sports, and like don't think this is gonna be your year, but it's not like that. So, but yeah, man, the whole southeastern part of the country in the United States, that's Braves country. It's not just Georgia. It's the Carolinas, it's Florida, like you said, a little bit Alabama. It's probably even fans in Mississippi. So,
oh yeah, I mean, it's like there's not going to be a Mississippi pro team, so it's either Ole Miss, Mississippi State, or the Atlanta Braves.
Yep, for sure.
And of course, you can give Matthew Lennox a follow on @/Twitter on Star Conscience, and you can check out his wonderful work on Florida State Wire at the College Wires Network on USA Today, blogging with the boys on SB Nation, and you can check him out Monday nights, 8 p.m. Central Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Florida State Live, right there, or here on Florida State at The Voice College Football. For those tuning in on Florida State at The Voice College Football,